Raptor fans! Teresa here at the Montana Raptor Conservation Center in Bozeman, Montana. Welcome to another one of our online summer education series programs. In previous programs that we've posted on our Facebook, we have been talking about various raptor species and the amazing different adaptations that each one has. We're also focusing on how they find their prey, how they catch their prey, and how they kill their prey. But in the program today, we are going to be focusing on one of the most important aspects that any bird has, and that is the science of flight. There are many different things that allow a bird to be flighted, and all different bird species have various different ways that they fly and they utilize their flight. But there are 4 main forces of flight that allow any flighted bird to be able to fly. Those forces include thrust, drag, weight, and lift. And thrust is going to be the motion, it's going to be what allows the bird to push forwards. So in an airplane, what causes thrust is the engine. With birds, the way that they're able to cause thrust is through flapping their wings. And they do this through using their very strong breast muscles. Flighted birds have a very pronounced keel that sticks out of their sternum that allows a lot of spatial area for their breast muscles to attach to, which gives them lots of thrust, and that's going to allow them to move forward. Now, drag is the force that acts opposite the direction of motion. It is also known as air resistance. So think of when you put your hand out of a car window and you feel the air push your hand back, and your hand is actually causing drag or air resistance in the air. The next force of flight is weight, which is the force created by gravity. Birds have many adaptations that allow them to fight the weight, the force of gravity. Things like hollow bones, they have no teeth, they don't have a urinary bladder, and they also, their reproductive organs are very, very small, except during mating season. Now, the last force of flight is the force of lift. Birds actually have rounded wings that are shaped like an airfoil or concave. So you can see in this great horned owl wing that they are kind of curved on the top, and the bottom they curve upwards. So the air traveling over the wing has to move faster in order to go over more space. And the more concave the wing is, the more lift it will get. Also, birds that have larger wings will have more ability to have lift. Birds that have smaller wings are going to have to flap a lot faster in order to get equal lift to a bird like a turkey vulture that's going to have excellent lift with those great big wings. Now, many different species of birds have different types of flight, and they all utilize these 4 forces of flight all a little bit differently in order to do the best thing for them in the wild. There are some birds that need to shoot very, very quickly in between branches. There's a lot of birds that need to utilize their wings in order to soar for long periods of time. So they all have different shapes and sizes of wings. So let's go ahead and meet some of our education ambassadors and show you their different types of flight and the way they utilize them. Okay, everybody, here is our first raptor ambassador. This here is Millie, and she is our Peregrine Falcon. She is an exceptionally stunning bird, and we're so lucky to have her here at the Raptor Center. Now, falcons definitely utilize their ability to fly. They're extremely gifted and talented flyers that utilize their flight in order to catch their prey. Most of the time, these birds will actually even eat their prey while they're flying, so they definitely need to have excellent flight. Now, these birds are actually the fastest animal in the world. She can fly at over 200 miles an hour, which is amazing. Now, these birds aren't going to be flying 200 miles an hour straight across the ground. Instead, they're actually going to utilize gravity. They're going to go up very, very high in the sky and then tuck in their wings and they're gonna drop down and be almost bullet shaped. You can see her body is very, very sleek, and when her wings are tucked in, she is almost bullet shaped, and that will allow her to fly without creating a lot of drag. Falcons also have pointed wingtips, and they have very stiff feathers, which will help to reduce drag as well. Now, in order to get to these extremely high heights, peregrine falcons and other falcons have very large protruding keel bones that allow them to have extra strong chest muscles that will help them to reach those really, really high heights. They'll go thousands of feet in the air in order to get down to that really fast dive. Now, these birds need to fly extremely fast in order to catch up to their prey, which is also fast. Typically, falcons are going to be seen eating other birds, especially peregrine falcons. When they go over 200 miles an hour, and once they catch up to that bird, they'll whip their feet out at the last second, and they can actually punch their prey right out of the sky using their feet and their speed. And that might knock their prey unconscious or even kill it from that initial hit. Now, these birds can wrap their long toes and talons around their prey and eat those birds while they're flying. You can kind of see her very pointed wings, and you can actually see why we have Millie. Her right wing over here was injured. We found her by the side of the interstate, and she's never actually regrown secondary feathers, which are extremely important for her in order to reach those high heights and get some good solid flights. Now, these birds definitely have a lot of other amazing adaptations about them. Falcons have those beautiful black lines you can see underneath their eyes. Those are called malar stripes, and those act kind of like football players or baseball players when they put black under their eyes. That's to absorb the sunlight, and that will help her to see really well when she is diving at those fast speeds. You can see that she doesn't have a very big eyebrow bone or orbital ridge, and that's something like eagles and hawks. They have those, and that'll help protect their eyes from the sun. But Millie is meant to be very, very sleek in order to dive at those fast speeds, so she has a very, very small orbital bone, and her malar stripes are what's going to help protect her vision. Now, these birds are going to be nesting on the sides of cliffs, and they're going to dive down off those edges to catch their prey. Sometimes they can be found near open plains, near the edge of cliffs on the edge of rivers or lakes. They can also be found in large cities. When they started introducing these falcons back into the wild, some cities that have really high skyscrapers, they actually put peregrine falcon nest boxes on the top of these skyscrapers, and those kind of are like metal cliffs, so something that they can utilize inside of cities as well. Now, we are so lucky to have this amazing bird. This is an animal that really, really utilizes her flight. But one thing I also wanted to talk about, with falcons, since they're flying so fast, they have this little bony tubercle that is in their nostrils, or their nares is the correct term for that. And I don't know if you can see it on her, but there's this little yellow dot, kind of looks like a booger, in her nares. But that's going to allow her to breathe when she's flying over 200 miles an hour. If you've ever stuck your head out of a moving vehicle out of the window, it's a little hard to breathe when somebody's driving like 50, 60 miles an hour. It might not be safe to stick our head out of the window at that time, but that'll make it hard for us to breathe when the air is rushing by our nostrils. So with falcons, they have those little bony tubercles that will allow them to breathe nice and easily while they're flying. If you have any questions about Millie or peregrine falcons, please make sure to put them in the comments below. A great example of wings that are adapted to specific habitats can be seen while comparing different hawk species. Here in Montana, we have buteo hawks and we have accipiter hawks. Buteo hawks are raptors like the red-tailed hawk, the ferruginous hawk, or the rough-legged hawk, and they have very broad, wide wings, so wide that you can barely see them, and they also have slotted wingtips and a very short but wide fan-like tail. Now, all these adaptations are going to help them to soar for long periods of time in their open habitats looking for prey. Accipiter hawks like the goshawk, the Cooper's hawk, and sharp-shinned hawks that we have here in Montana have a lot thinner wings, a little bit shorter, and they're more rounded wingtips, and then they have a longer, thin, rudder-like tail. All of these adaptations are going to help them when they are darting through trees. Oftentimes you'll find accipiters in forests hunting other birds. Now raptors have what's called high aspect ratio wings, which means their wings are a lot longer than they are wide. This will help them to get a lot of vertical lift. Birds like game birds, so pheasants, turkeys, they often have low aspect ratio wings, meaning that their wings are not a lot longer than they are wide, and they're more so built for very quick takeoffs, but not for long suspended flight. All right, now here we have Chaco, which is our Swainson's hawk. A Swainson's hawk is a type of hawk called a buteo hawk, like a red-tailed hawk or ferruginous hawk. So that means they have those broad, wide wings and a fan-like tail, which Chaco's kind of showing off right now. And they are definitely going to be good at soaring. These birds live here in Montana in the spring and summer, but they actually migrate down to Argentina every single fall. That's over 6,000, yeah. He had something to say about that. That's over 6,000 miles in one direction, so he definitely needs to be good at soaring. Now these birds use those wide wings and fan-like tail in order to help them catch thermals. Thermals are warm pockets of air, and what happens is the sun heats up the ground, and of course that heat rises in kind of a circular motion, and the Swainson's hawks will utilize those thermals, those circles of air, in order to get nice and high in the sky while they're migrating. And those high heights will help them to migrate and soar for long periods of time without using a lot of energy. It's got a lot to say today. Now these birds are excellent at hunting rodents. They're very good at soaring and looking for their prey and diving down, but they're also what's called perch and pounce hunters. So a lot of times you might see these birds sitting on top of utility poles, electrical poles, telephone poles, waiting for their prey to come below them. And then these birds will dive down to catch their prey very, very quickly. So not only are they good at soaring, but they're very good at diving at decently fast speeds. They're definitely not quite as fast as the Peregrine Falcon that we met earlier, but they can be pretty quick to catch up to their prey without their prey seeing them. So these guys will eat a lot of rodents in the breeding season, especially when they're feeding their babies, but when they're migrating down south to Argentina, they actually eat so many insects that they're often referred to as the grasshopper hawk. So these birds often utilize their very small feet to perch on the ground, and one Swainson hawk can actually catch 100 grasshoppers in just one sitting. These birds are so good at catching grasshoppers that they're also called the farmer's friend. So oftentimes they'll perch on a hay bale or even the farmer's tractor and wait for them to plow their fields, which is going to help show all those rodents and insects that were hidden by the grass or crops, and allow these guys to hop around on the ground and eat their fill. They're excellent pest and insect control for farmers to have nearby. This will allow farmers to not have to use as many pesticides or insecticides on their crops, which will be healthier for us and healthier for our environment. We have a couple of red-tailed hawks flying overhead right now. I think that's who Chaco is screaming at. But those red-tailed hawks are utilizing the nice breeze that we're having here today in Montana, and those big, wide, broad wings and fan-like tails that buteos have. Now Chaco here is an ambassador because he actually hatched with a deformed humerus, making him not able to fly or survive in the wild. But he is an excellent education ambassador. It's really fun for people to get to meet him because a lot of people don't realize that we even have Swainson's hawks here in Montana. Since they are boot-tailed hawks, they do kind of look like red-tailed hawks when they're flying by. But a great way to tell you're looking at a Swainson hawk is that white beard and that dark brown bib that he has on his chest. If you have any questions about Chaco, please feel free to place them in the comments below. Okay everybody, here is our last raptor guest of today. This here is Prairie, and I guess everybody's just going to be really chatty today. She is our short-eared owl, and she is a very different body shape and wing shape compared to Chaco and Millie's, especially Millie's. She has very wide wings with rounded edges. Now, this is not going to help her be very fast. Instead, her wings are built to make her fly a little bit more slowly, and it allows them to glide without flapping very often. Owls also have exceptionally soft feathers versus the very stiff falcon feathers or turkey vulture feathers. So instead of soaring, her feathers are built for being very silent. If anybody's worn like running or jogging pants, whenever you walk they make loud swishing noises. That's kind of what a turkey vulture or a bald eagle sounds like when they fly. They have very stiff feathers that allow them to soar for long periods of time, help them stay waterproof. But with owls, those soft feathers also have a serrated edge called fluting or fimbria, and that serrated edge kind of looks like eyelashes on the edge of their feathers. And this is going to allow them to stay very, very silent while they're flying. Even though Prairie's talking a lot right now, if she were looking for prey and trying to swoop down on it, she would want to be very, very quiet so that she could sneak up on her prey. Scientists also believe that they have exceptionally silent flight to help them to hear their prey a little bit better. Owls highly rely on their sense of hearing, especially the owls that are extremely nocturnal, that hunt at night often. Their facial disc, you can see on Prairie, is made up of thick bristly feathers, and it's kind of like when you put your hand behind your ear in order to hear something a little bit better. Her whole face is going to help to funnel the sound back to her ears. Now, even though she's called a short-eared owl, you can't really see any ears, right? Short or long. Her name comes from the feather tufts that she can raise and that might stick up on the top of her head, kind of like little bunny ears. But right now, they are flat against her head, and they're not ears. They're just tufts of feathers called plumicorns. And the plumicorns might be something that help her blend in. They might also help her communicate with other animals. If a owl is approaching her, she might put those feather tufts straight up in the air to tell that owl to back off. But her ears are on the side of her head. You just can't see them. They're underneath her feathers, and they are very large slits on the side of her head. So her facial disc acts kind of like an outer ear or like a satellite dish. It funnels that sound back to her ears underneath her feathers. Now, a lot of animals, or a lot of birds, don't have those feather tufts, and that's going to help them be a little bit more sleek, a little aerodynamic. If they were to fly with those feather tufts up, that would cause more drag while they're flying, making them slower, which won't be an issue for the owl. But you'll see the peregrine falcons, hawks, they don't have those plumicorns sticking up out of their head. But some birds, like the pheasant, they have plumicorns, and those might be something that helps them communicate with other birds as well. Now, Prairie has very specialized feathers all over her body, keep making her nice and silent, and she also has feathers on the bottom of her feet. You can see, or on the top of her feet rather, they don't actually go on the bottom of her feet, but they go all the way almost to the tips of her talons. And that's going to be really helpful for the winter time. Most owls don't migrate, so if she lives up here in Montana, she's going to stay nice and warm in the winter time with those basically homegrown wool socks that she's got going on her feet. Now, some owls, like the great horned owl, have feathers all the way down to their talons, and some owls, like the snowy owls, actually have feathers that will curl underneath the bottoms of their feet. So their feet are fully encased in feathers that are going to help keep them nice and warm. But owl's flight is very specifically going to help them be stealthy. If you have any questions about prairie or short-eared owls, please put them in the comments below. We hope that you learned a lot about the way that these raptors fly, and thank you so much for watching our video. Have a great rest of your day.